It was raining hard, thundering, lightning, and the wind was blowing so strongly that the TV news had reported a weather alert. I was thinking that it had been a long time since a storm of that magnitude had hit Florence, and that maybe the rain of the whole month was pouring out in those 10 minutes. And then I heard some guys standing nearby exclaim, "Here we are! Those are the signs of the apocalypse." I must confess that that idea disturbed me. Apocalypse. They probably just said it as a joke, but as I am very sensitive to that theme, I interpreted it as a way to mitigate the gravity of the event and to look away from what is happening right in front of us. Something is changing, and that something is the climate. The topic of climate change has never been as current as today, even if very often there is still a sort of rejection by the community in front of its reality. Now, I don't want to bore you about the causes of climate change and why extreme weather phenomena are becoming so frequent. I just want to understand why, although we are bombarded with this type of worrying news which we experience in our daily living, this problem is still not considered with the right weight and the right concern. And yet, when we talk about health problems, everybody keeps an eye out. How many times in the past were you worried about alarming news for your well-being? Infectious diseases, contaminated food, toxic waste. Those are just some of the emergencies of recent times. As soon as we hear a news that undermines our physical health, we immediately batten down the hatches and we start informing ourselves in every way. Just a few years ago, for example, there was an alarm about meningitis. And rightly, nobody hesitated to run to get vaccinated. I remember that there were even those who didn't go to crowded places anymore because of the fear of contracting the disease. But when we talk about dangers related to climate change, we aren't equally worried. Why? Perhaps we don't realize that what is happening to our planet concerns us firsthand. The Lancet, a weekly scientific journal in the medical field, defines climate change as the greatest global health threat of the 21st century. According to most scientific models, the increases in temperatures compared to the pre-industrial era will be aggravated in the coming years and will have dangerous effects on our health. Direct effects include heat waves, droughts, rising sea levels, and as I said before, intensification of extreme weather phenomena. These phenomena have consequences on us. Firstly, air quality is worsened by promoting the spread of chronic respiratory diseases and alterations that overload cardiocirculatory system, exposing the weaker subject to a greater risk of ischemia, strokes, and heart attacks. Climate tropicalization creates an environment in which viral vectors, such as mosquitoes, proliferate. Water quality also deteriorates, compromising hygienic conditions. As a result, infectious diseases such as malaria and dengue are spreading in increasingly larger areas of the planet. Droughts and rising sea levels are reducing hectares of arable land, threatening economies based on local products. Because of this lack of resources, numerous groups of people are forced to abandon their lands. As you know today, migration is at the center of international political issues. It creates daily clashes and debates and seems to be far from being resolved. Imagine what will happen when, in addition to economic and social conditions, the climatic situation will also be exacerbated. So, as you see, the health matter is quite delicate and it has social and economic repercussions. I started to be interested in climate change when I was in elementary school. What kid doesn't love hurricanes and tornadoes? The teacher gave us topics. I got the Kyoto Protocol. I started doing research and it scared me. It was the end of the 90s, and there was already something to worry about. But me, I didn't understand how serious the situation was back then. But I remembered that just a few years later, I could experience on my skin one of its probable effects. I was at the beach, and one evening, just before going to sleep, I couldn't brush my teeth because the toothpaste had liquefied. It was extremely hot. That year, Europe was hit by a massive heat wave. A lot of people died. Temperatures in the city were over 40 degrees for weeks. Today, a temperature of 40 degrees alarms me, but it doesn't surprise me very much. You have to think that 2017 ranks third among the hottest years on the planet, only preceded by the previous 2 years. And I'm sorry, but the scenarios for the future are not better. If I haven't convinced you yet that what is threatened is primarily our health, at least think about the beauty we are losing. In my spare time, I used to babysit 2 kids, and we often read together. Their favorite books are the ones about nature and animals. Just a few days ago, we chose a book about the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. The book was full of beautiful pictures, and the kids were fascinated. While we were reading it, an awful thought crossed my mind. Those kids may never see real coral in its natural habitat. This because the Great Coral Reef is currently dying. The increases of oceanic temperatures of just 2 degrees causes in the coral a destroying phenomenon. It's as if the coral were getting a fever. The microorganisms inside them are not able to photosynthesize and to produce nourishment anymore. And after a few days, the corals are doomed. At first bleaching, then putrefying, and finally dying. As a human being, I feel responsible. Our footprint is a pretty big one. So, now the good news. You can take steps against climate change. The most effective actions to reduce global emissions are eating a plant-based diet, reducing air travel, living car-free, and having smaller families. Nothing that difficult. Those actions have much greater potential to reduce global emissions than commonly promoted strategies. Maybe this will shock you, but recycling, for example, is useful, but is 4 times less effective than eating vegetarian. Food and transport are the major contributors to global emissions, and you have firstly to start from here. I'm not telling you to become a vegetarian, but you have to think that the average consumption of meat in industrialized countries is 200 grams per person a day. A global convergence to 90 grams per person a day would have significant effect on carbon levels. So eat less meat. Change your ways of getting work or school. Cycle, walk, use public transport. One person traveling by car alone produces 3 times more CO2 per kilometer than going by train. And if you're using your car, don't speed. Driving faster than 130 kilometers per hour increases the fuel consumption by about 30% than driving at a speed of 80. Maybe someone behind you will get on the horn, but there are gestures for that. So, be the example. Spread the message. Better inform yourself. Save energy and resources and use them more efficiently. The future of the Earth is the future of our health. Thank you.